Everybody ready? All right, let's get started. This is the June 20th hearings of the Baltimore Municipal and Zoning Appeals Board. I'd like to welcome everyone on a beautiful day outside. A few preliminaries. If anybody has any phones or other devices that make noise, we would ask you now to turn them off, or at a minimum to turn them to a vibrate mode. Our microphones are very sensitive. This proceeding is also being recorded, and this proceeding is, in addition to being recorded, it's being broadcast live over the city network, as you can see from these cameras that surround us. So we ask you to keep all noise, including talking, to a minimum. Generally, we're going to call the cases in the order that they appear on the docket. When we call your case, if you'd come up and stand in front of us, obviously. If there is opposition to your case, we would ask that the appellant stand to my left, the opposition stand to my right. And the way we will proceed with those cases is the appellant will have the opportunity to present his or her case. Opposition will then have the opportunity to present the opposition's case, and the appellant will have the opportunity to finish. We don't go back and forth a lot with these, and that will be the order in which we will call the cases. We're going to vote at the end of the day on the cases that are heard today. You can stick around if you'd like. If you have better things to do today, you can call the zoning office tomorrow to get the result, and that number is 410-396-4301. And if anybody needs a card, I believe Mr. Tanner has a number of cards with his information on it. We have one case today that has opposition signed in on the case, and we found that sometimes if the parties talk, things can be resolved in those cases. That doesn't necessarily guarantee that this board will rule one way or the other, but we found it's very helpful if people talk. So for case number 2017-85, 4708 Harford Road, would you just stand so I can see who's here? Are you the appellant?
I'm with Councilman Dorsey. He's on his way down.
Okay. Who's the appellant? You're the opposition? You're the appellant?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you all had a chance to talk?
Yes.
Is there any utility in having further discussion?
No.
Okay. We can't make you talk, so we will make a decision on this case.
I
But
can elaborate if you like.
no, not at this point. No, this is just to see if you want to talk. All right. Thank you. Next, we're going to call cases for which we call this our consent docket, for which cases for which we have sufficient information to approve these various appeals. So I'm going to call a series of cases at one time. As I call your case, first case will line up immediately to my left, and the rest of the cases will line up further down to my left. So I'm going to start calling. First case is 2017-128, 319 South Central Avenue, Caroline Hecker. 2017-200, 1129 North Caroline Street, Vonetta Moore. 2017-203, 5303 Els Road Avenue, Charles Arnold. 2017-204, 3203 Labyrinth Road, Ari Lichtman. 2017-205, 1625 Union Avenue, Bill Stevenson. 2017-207, 2 Orkney Court, Michelle Clancy.
2 Orkney Court? David Kozlowski.
Well, we have Orkney, O-R-K-N-E-Y.
Yeah.
Okay, that's you. 2017-210, 509 to 521 South Exeter Street, known as 1012 Fleet Street, Anastasia Nardangeli. 2017-214, 810 South East Avenue, Matt Neffel. 2017-215, 1819 and 1821 Light Street, Josh Nicodemus. 2017-216, 5603 to 5607 North Charles Street. 2017-17, 1926 to 1928 Pratt Street, Nate Prettle. 2017-220, 5711 York Road, Carlton Gilbert. 2017-221, 1729 Edmondson Avenue, David Waterman. 2017-223, 4600 Gulf Street, Susan Williams. 2017-224, 2113 North Charles Street, Laquetta Monroe. And finally, 2017-226, 111 North Decker Street, Travis Larchman. Is everybody up here? Let's get you all sworn in, please.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, let's start with the first one, 2017-128, 319 South Central Avenue. Caroline Hecker.
Good afternoon, Justin Williams, filling in for Caroline Hecker from
Good
the law
afternoon.
firm Rosenberg Martin with the applicants Chris Wodorowski and Mary Beth Wodorowski.
Great, thank you very much. Any staff reports?
Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends approval. Thank you.
Great. Can you just give us a brief summary of what your case is, please?
Sure. The applicant is proposing a 4-story, 5-unit multifamily building with 4,500 square feet of retail space.
Okay. The zoning board having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Also
Thank
want
you
to
very
give
much.
you file of exhibits, including a letter of support from the Douglas Place Neighborhood Association.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
2017-200, 1129 North Caroline Street, Bonetta Moore.
Good afternoon, Ryan Potter on behalf of the applicant.
I didn't think you were Bonetta Moore. Any staff reports on this case?
Planning Department recommends approval of this appeal. Thank you.
Mr. Potter, can you give us a brief description of what you want to
Sure,
do?
this is a conversion of what was formerly a funeral home into an office space for the reinvestment fund in Baltimore.
Great. Zoning board, having reviewed your case, has sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
2017-203, 5303 Ells Road Avenue, Charles Arnold.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You, Mr. Arnold?
Proposing to build a 6-foot fence in the rear and side yard.
Okay, and you are Mr. Arnold?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Arnold, we have reviewed your appeal and have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
2017-204, 3203 Labyrinth Road, Ari Lickman. Mr. Lickman?
Yes.
Any staff reports on this one?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Lickman, you want to give us a brief description of what you're doing here?
We're going to add we want to add a side addition into our setback on our property for our home where we've lived already 15 years.
Okay, great. Zoning board, having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
2017-205, 1625 Union Avenue, Bill Stevenson.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Good, how are
Are you
you?
Mr. Stevenson?
I am.
And sir, your name?
Will Bauer, B-A-U-E-R. Hi,
Great.
how you doing?
Any staff reports?
You want to get into amend his appeal first? State your amended
This,
appeal.
Oh,
this appeal was amended to reflect the transit-oriented district that it currently is in under Transform.
Okay.
Previously, it was industrial, and live entertainment was a problematic issue at that point because there was a distance requirement in the industrial districts, but under the new code, that goes away.
Okay.
And secondarily,
when we amended our application this morning, we also removed the request for restaurants because of the TOD stuff.
Okay.
thank you. Based upon those amendments, the Planning Department recommends approval of this application.
Great. Well, we've heard what you want to do, and the zoning board has sufficient information to approve your appeal and does approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I'm glad you got your tricycle.
Thank you. The national nightmare is over. Thank you, guys.
2017-2072 Orkney Court. And you're not Michelle.
I'm not Michelle. I'm David Kozlowski. I'm the homeowner. I believe Michelle is the
She filed the
filing applicant
paperwork.
for the contractor we're
Okay,
working with.
Great. Any staff?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Spell Koslowski.
KOZ as in zebra, LOS as in Samuel, KY.
Any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Can you give us just a brief description of your project, please?
Absolutely. So we are planning to build a ground level deck that is 1 foot 3 inches off the ground behind a 6 foot privacy fence. It does extend 7 feet beyond the side of our home, and it is replacing an existing dilapidated structure from when we bought the home. I also have 2 letters of support from our side neighbor closest to the home, as well as the neighbor behind us. And again,
Thank you.
it's a
Great.
privacy fence there too.
The zoning board, having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much. 2017-210, 509 to 521 South Exeter Street.
Anastasia Thomas Nardangeli on behalf of the applicant.
Great, thank you. Any staff reports?
Yes, thank you. Planning Department has reviewed this application and recommends approval subject to these conditions. For live entertainment, a copy of the use and occupancy permit for the premises must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of the written approval by the board of the live entertainment provided on the premises, including details of any restrictions or limitations on live entertainment provided, must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of all other permits and licenses required pursuant to the written approval of the board must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. For the outdoor table service, the capacity of the outdoor seating area will be not more than 7 4-top tables or their equivalent in 4-top and 2-top tables and 28 patrons, or as otherwise determined by the fire marshal. The tables will be limited to those that can seat 2 or 4 patrons and are to be kept in the courtyard of the building. There will be no outdoor bar, no outdoor music, jukebox, or other form of entertainment, and all patrons must be seated for dining and served by waitstaff. Thank you.
Thank you. 2 things. 1, can you give us a brief description of your project? And 2, are those conditions acceptable?
Well, as a preliminary matter, I did not submit the application for outdoor seating because pursuant to BMZ 2008-76, outdoor seating had already been approved as an accessory.
Okay.
So, in answer to your question number 2, I do not accept the outdoor seating restrictions because we're not asking for outdoor seating. We've already had that approved. For live entertainment, yes, of course we do. This is an application for live entertainment as a conditional use for a restaurant that will be located. It will take up the area that's known as 1010 and 1012 Fleet Street, which is part of the Bagby building. It will also use the courtyard that is a fully contained courtyard within the Bagby building. I have some exhibits that I'd like to submit to the board. If you look at exhibit number 4, that shows a picture of what the front on Fleet Street, the front of the restaurant will look like. There's a gate that shows an entryway into the courtyard and then the front of the restaurant that will be called Tagliata. There's also in exhibit number 1, there's some pictures from Google that show the location of the restaurant and a picture of the courtyard that will not, this is from the past before we build out the area, or it's not really getting built out. We didn't need to pull any permits to do anything, but they're they're redesigning the area. So this was previously the restaurant that was located in this space was known as Fleet Street Kitchen. It shut down. And what happened was the owner brought in Alexander Smith, who runs Lock Bar and Uzo Bay and Azumi and Harbor East, to rebrand and develop a concept for this area. He's done that. He's created this upscale dining concept that incorporates American and Italian cuisine and an enclosed courtyard, and he is anticipating opening up in July of 2017. As part of his concept, he'd like to offer live entertainment, which was described in the application, but I'll explain in a little more detail. The live entertainment will include a baby grand piano that will be located inside of the building, or inside of the premises known as 1012 Fleet Street. That won't move. And he will have one piano player there to perform in the evenings when the restaurant is open. And then in the space known as 1012, which is also an indoor space, he anticipates having a bass and sometimes a saxophonist performing with no amplification equipment, just the instruments in the side as background music again. The other type of live entertainment he proposes having is only on Sundays, and it would be a disc jockey who provides background music in the very back of the courtyard. And there's no dance floor, there's no designated stage, but he would have a disc jockey in the back with speakers playing music for the patrons. So those are the three types of live entertainment that is proposed. The exhibits also include floor plans to help the board better understand the space and the design of the space. But I just wanted to emphasize that because we're not asking for outdoor table service, we don't accept the conditions here. In particular, it says there will be no live entertainment outdoors. The intent, as expressed in the application, was that we would have a disc jockey performing in the enclosed courtyard that is not, the outdoor table service is not on the public sidewalks. It's fully enclosed within the building itself. So that is the basic summary.
Okay.
Well, the outdoor table service was approved in 2008, and with the planning department's conditions at that time. So whatever conditions that planning authorized back in 2008 would still travel with the use.
Right.
Correct.
So,
Okay. Well, with that understanding, the zoning board has sufficient information to approve your appeal and does approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
27-214, 810 Southeast Avenue. State your name, please.
Matthew Nuff.
Any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Neff, would just give us a brief description of your project here, please?
Sure. We're going to be building a 5-foot addition on the first floor and a 10-foot addition on the second floor, leaving about 19 feet in the rear for a patio. 12-foot, 11 wide house.
Okay. Zoning board has sufficient information to approve your appeal and does approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. 2017-215, 819 and 821 Light Street, Josh Nicodemus.
we had called his name earlier.
Not answered previously.
He hasn't answered.
Okay, 2017-216, 5603 to 5607 North Charles Street, Tom Spies. Spies or Spies? Spies.
That's Spies.
Any staff reports?
Planning Department recommends approval of this application. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Spies, can you give us just a brief description of your project, please?
Yes, this is for the Church of the Redeemer in the 5600 block of Charles Street, and we have run out of room in our current 2 columbariums. So we're wishing to expand them with a new columbarium on the west side. So it's approximately a 4-foot-high wall made of stone in front of an existing stone wall.
Great. Zoning Board, having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
2017-217, 1926 to 1928 East Pratt Street. And you're not Mr. Prettle.
I am not.
State your name, please, for the record.
Al Barry, AB Associates, filling in for Nate Pruttle, whose wife has having her first child as we speak.
Ah,
Literally. I will pass that along.
please do. Any staff reports?
Planning Department reviewed this application, recommends that approval of the application be subject to the condition that the proposed redevelopment of this consolidated property is completed in accordance with approved site and development plans. Thank you.
Mr. Barry, give us a very brief description, number one, and
Okay,
number two, are you agreeable to the conditions?
Yes. This is for a new construction, multifamily building. I believe you have plans in your file and also a letter from the Butcher Hill Association. Been meeting with them for several months now. It's a 16-unit apartment building, replacing some dilapidated buildings. And we thank the board for its approval.
Great. The zoning board, having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Does that make you an uncle? Does that make you an uncle?
2017-220, 5711 York Road, Carlton Gilbert. Mr. Gilbert, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
State your name for the record, please.
Carlton Gilbert.
Any staff reports?
Yes, thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application and recommends approval subject to these conditions. Placement of the antennas and related equipment must be approved by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation, also known as CHAP, which may require use of a stealth enclosure to ensure they are visually unobtrusive. Antennas, microwave antenna, and related equipment will remain mounted as illustrated in plans and elevations submitted to and approved by Planning Department, and the applicant will adequately mitigate any adverse effect as specified in the report of the Historical and Architectural Preservation Division of the Department of Planning in accordance with that report's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gilbert, number one, would you give us a brief description of your project? And two, are the conditions acceptable to you?
Yes, but I just want to be clear. Did we read, what was the address you read, 5711?
5711 York Road?
Okay, what he gave me is the wrong
I read the
report.
wrong.
Oh,
I apologize.
okay.
But we will accept these conditions.
Okay, whatever they are.
You won't need to accept the one. Sorry about that. What happened here?
I actually have 3 on the agenda.
Yeah, I know. So do we have any staff reports on this one?
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot simpler. Antennas and, yes, reviewed and recommends approval subject to these conditions. Antennas and related equipment must be painted to match the building to ensure they are visually unobtrusive. Panel antennas and related equipment will remain mounted as illustrated in the plans and elevations submitted to and approved by the Planning Department, and the applicant will adequately mitigate any adverse effect as specified in the report of the Historical and Architectural Preservation Division of the Department of Planning in accordance with that report's recommendations. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So we'll do this again. Are those acceptable to you?
Yes, they are.
And just give us a very brief description of your
I
project.
represent T-Mobile. I work for a company by the name of SmartLink, and we're proposing rooftop antennas on the existing building.
Great, thank you very much. The zoning board, having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Would you speak with, Bob, have you spoken to Mr. Gilbert about, would you maybe go off to the side and have a quick conversation with Mr. Henry on 2019? That's Washington Street.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Next is 2017-221, 1729 Edmondson Avenue, David Waterman. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Would you state your name, please?
David Waterman.
Give us a second.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Waterman, can you tell us a little bit about your project?
It's just a two-story addition at the rear of our unit. The first floor will be utilized as a one-car garage and motorcycle storage, and the second floor will be additional living space.
Great. Zoning board, having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is 2017-223, 4600 Gulf Street, Susan Williams.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms. Would you state?
Susan Williams.
Staff reports.
Planning Department recommends approval of this application, subject to the condition that the subdivision is completed according to the plans approved by the Planning Commission at its last meeting. Thank you.
Can you give us a brief description of your project, and then are the conditions acceptable to you?
Yes, this is part of a multiple townhouse subdivision lot that you had approved previously. There's an existing antenna tower on the site that was previously shown as a lease line, and we're making that a property line because for technical reasons, it can't be on the HOA property.
Okay, and the conditions are acceptable?
Absolutely,
Great.
yes.
Zoning Board, having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much. 2017-224, 2113 North Charles Street, LaQuetta Moore.
Monroe.
Monroe, you're absolutely right. I don't know how I got more out of that, but
That's okay.
You're not alone. I previously made the same mistake. Department of Planning has reviewed this application and recommends approval subject to these conditions. Cosmetic tattooing or microblading occurs only during normal business hours of the existing beauty shop. All tattooing is done by appointment only, with no walk-ins, and no exterior signage advertises availability of tattooing on the premises.
great, thank you very much. And same as before, if you can give us a brief description of what you're proposing, number one, and number two, are those conditions acceptable to you?
Yes, they're acceptable.
Okay.
I own a eyelash extension shop, and I'm looking to add microblading, which is a cosmetic tattooing, which inside of my suite, which is only a one owner, which is just me. That's it.
All
I
right.
have some photos
If you'd like us to put those as part of the record, sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Zoning Board, having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, and finally, 2017-226, finally for our consent docket, 2017-226, 111 North Decker Street, Travis Larchman.
I'm here for Mr.
State your name again for the record.
Al Barry, B Associates. Travis was working with Nate Prettle on this one and the one before it, which I will mention, we're going to request a postponement on.
On 225?
225. This one is a relatively minor addition to a property on Decker Street. If you have any questions, appreciate the board's approval.
Any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Zoning Board, having reviewed your appeal, has sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very
And then
much.
we will work with the staff on the Toon Street.
All right, so 225 is postponed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
First, you go to the first one?
We're going to, let me just state, we've had, there are a couple cases that were postponed. I don't know if anyone here is for those cases. I'll just read them for the record. 2017-192 has been postponed. 2017-209 has been postponed. 2017-211 has been postponed. And 2017-218 has been postponed. And now 2017-225 has been postponed. All right, we'll get into our regular docket now. First case we're going to call is 2017-17, 3801 Hillsdale Road, Janine Coates' house. Yeah, we were asking them to postpone.
You may.
Excuse me one second. All right, well, let's move forward with this case. Can you state, let me get you sworn in first.
I raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. My name is Janine Coates House. I'm the owner of Family Rainbow Learning Center 1. I'd like to open up a second one to expand because I have a lot of kids, parents they want me to take care of, and I have no more space.
Okay, let me ask, are there any staff reports on this case?
Planning Department did review this application. However, we haven't filed a written report on it. The recommendation would be that the daycare center, if needed, consult with the Department of Transportation and the Parking Authority of Baltimore City about the possible need for a passenger loading zone at this location in order to allow safe drop-off and pickup of children.
Okay. Can you give us a little more information about the size of the daycare, what parking you have, what your thoughts are about what Mr.
Yes, I also went down to zoning, down to parking, and the young man told me, gave me an application for zoning drop-off because I already have it for my first daycare center. So I'm very familiar with that. This building has 10 rooms, 2 kitchens, 2 bathrooms. It sits on 0.76 acres of land.
How much, I'm sorry? How much acreage?
0.76,
Oh, okay.
yes. And it gives me the availability space for my children to have more play area. Basically, I just want to take this property and open it up as another center for my children. It's a single-family home, it's gated in. It does have a parking pad already that consists of four cars. So I plan on expanding it if I need to for parking.
Okay. And it looks like there is the parking is in sort of the center of the lot. I'm looking at an aerial photograph. I guess this is the parking back here.
Yes, sir, it is.
And is there a curb cut so you can drive off the main street?
Can I give you these to look at?
Sure.
Some pictures of it, see what it looks like for yourself.
Yeah, let me go both ways. I guess my question, though, is when you come off the street, it looks like there's a driveway.
Yes,
There-
sir, it
Is there what we call a curb cut so you can turn in off the street?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
And how many children will be here? 50?
45 to 50, whatever you want to give me.
Well, we'd rather you ask us for a number. All right, any questions from anybody?
No.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Petey, that's the tattoo place.
Bob, what are we doing with, okay. Next case, 2017-85, 4708 Harford Road, Thomas Cobb.
I'm gonna grab the.
Okay.
Big house. Goes with the daycare.
So everyone who's going to testify, I want to come on up and we'll get you sworn in.
Opposition to the right.
Appellants to my left.
Everybody raise your right hands, please. Raise your right hands, please, if you're going to testify. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
All right, so this is a proposal to use the front portion of the first floor for a 50-seat church. Continue remainder of building for 5 dwelling units as a mixed-use, multiple-family detached dwelling. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Let me get you, state your name for the record.
Pastor Thomas Cobb, the Apostolic Truth Tabernacle.
Okay. We have a number of people in opposition. We want everyone to be able to voice their opposition. We would ask that we don't have duplicative decisions to try to, duplicative discussions so we can keep the hearing moving. All right, Mr. Cobb, why don't you tell us what you want to do and why it comports with the zoning code?
We want to continue using our building for a 50-seat church, you know, along with the multifamily dwelling license that we've had there for 10 years. And you want to see the parking?
Yeah, I'd like to understand the parking situation.
We did this parking, well, I got copies here if you'd like. Or I was just discussing with them, so I'm not get organized here a minute. This is the one we made up, we had signed for the, from the planning. We'd already made this one up before. But the planning said we need to have that information on there, so that's what we did. We changed it to fit that. Joni O'Neill was the director there that signed that. We worked with them for years, helping the the people in the building there. And we do Christmas carol for Christmas. We go in there and pray with the people and and do communion, and because of that, they wanted to work with the church because they appreciate the church being in the neighborhood.
Okay, and maybe I'm not clear as what the difference between these two? I know the dates, I see the difference in the dates.
Well, the difference is that planning said I need to put in there about the agrees to lease parking to accommodate 35 vehicles effective May 1st, 2017. And this is, I guess, the change running for a 5-year term, renewable for 3 additional terms at $1 per year. They wanted me to put that in there so that I guess it has to be renewed every 5 years.
Okay, and I neglected to ask if there's any staff reports, so let's do that.
Okay. First, we have a letter from Harbell Community Association. They write, they are certain that a church under Mr. Cobb's leadership has operated at this location since 2002, and he has rented 5 dwelling units in the rear of the property since that time. To the very best of Harbell's knowledge, he has done so without an active use and occupancy permit, with no provision for off-street parking for the church or the dwelling units. The Harbell also noted there are no provisions have been made for off-street parking for either the church or the 5 dwelling units. It is our position that the documentation for off-street parking arrangements be presented to the board at the previous hearings were not valid. We would ask the board to at least require Mr. Cobb to provide valid documentation for the use of at least 13 off-street parking spaces. We have similar letters from the Lauraville Improvement Association, the Walterson Improvement Association, the Beverly Hills Improvement Association, and Hamilton Main Street, Lauraville, and Harford Road Community Review Panel. We also have received 6 letters from individual residents. They urge you not to approve zoning to the Apostolic Truth Tabernacle at 4708 Harford Road, Baltimore, Maryland, 21214. The large issue is the apartments on the property are a nuisance to the neighborhood. It is a center for drug distribution and draws a criminal element to the area. I have shopped on Harford Road across from the street from this property. I have seen open-air drug sales. I have seen countless fights, one stabbing, vandalism, loitering, littering, and base displays of human behavior. Whoever manages the apartment should be responsible for the criminal elements they allow in the neighborhood. Recently, a young boy was shot behind this property. I hope that this occurrence brings more attention to the illegal activity centered at the property. And then we have planning's report.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Lauraville Business District Urban Renewal Plan area. That particular urban renewal plan has a requirement which can be waived on the discretion of the Commissioner of Housing and Community Development of 1 parking space per 4 seats in a religious institution. And therefore, the department is recommending that as the application was originally presented, which did not have any parking resources provided, recommended disapproval of the application because the amount of variance that would have been required would have exceeded both the zoning board's authority under the zoning code and also would have conflicted with the urban renewal plan. The applicant may have just presented information which indicates that the parking requirement is going to be satisfied. However, the planning department wishes to note that any approval should be subject to the condition that the applicant receives either a waiver of the urban renewal plan off-street parking standard from the Commissioner of Housing and Community Development, or alternatively provides for the minimum amount of parking spaces required under the zoning code and under the urban renewal plan for the lifetime required under the zoning code, which is the 20-year period that he's spoken of. Thank you.
And Mr. French, the required parking for this is 12 or 13? Do we know?
It would be 13.
13, okay. Okay. Mr. Cobb, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish your presentation.
Am I now answering the questions for do we want to hear from them and then I can answer all their questions?
It's up to you. We're going to give you the opportunity to state your case, and I meant to do staff reports before you started, but I interrupted you, so if you're done, that's fine.
I'm done. I'd like to hear what they'd have to say.
Okay, let's hear from the opposition.
And I can answer.
I'll speak first.
My name is Ryan Dorsey. I'm the city councilman representing the area. Hello, board, Mr. Chairperson. I am here to formally state my opposition to this board granting this conditional use. To begin, I think it's important to recap that in the previous hearing, 2 handwritten letters were submitted, one from 2002, one from 2007 that had been altered as to make it look like it had been written in 2017. The purported author of the first letter from 2002 repeatedly refused to formally grant permission to use that parking lot, and the author of the 2007 letter had not owned the building for more than a year at the point in which it was altered to make it seem it had been written in 2017. He had sold the building sometime early 2016. This established in me, personally, a sense of mistrust in Mr. Cobb. The community raised significant concerns, which I have heard endlessly would not be too far-fetched a word to use, about the tenants of this property, who I have observed littering directly out the front door of the property, often seeing the door just swinging wide open for extended periods of time. I have watched hand-to-hand transactions take place in the open doorway with what seem to be tenants of Mr. Cobb. But giving Mr. Cobb the benefit of the doubt, we had a postponement of this hearing for 30 days in which we were to have a meeting with community stakeholders. That meeting was held. These same concerns were raised, as well as a variety of proposals to kind of remedy the conditions. To my knowledge, these conditions raised by the community have not been met. The problems persist. Yes.
Documentation of those suggested remedies, i.e. an MOU?
We did not have an MOU, no. But Mr. Harris took copious notes throughout. He is the president of the Moravia-Waltherson Neighborhood Association directly across the street. Where was I?
Sorry for the interruption.
No, it's okay. In the course of discussion, Mr. Cobb continued to present as one who is doing a service for people down on their luck, so to speak, but then went on to present that the rents that he is charging people who I know also to be developmentally disabled to be well above market rate. I believe he's taking advantage of these tenants and is an absentee slumlord. I also take issue with the fact that he has not paid any taxes on the revenue from those rental units there for the time that he has owned the property. And today, he has presented a contract, or so it seems, an agreement with Future Care, a business a couple of doors.
Have you seen this?
I have seen this. It is signed but not printed with the name Joni O'Neill on behalf of Future Care, who is actually the activities director at the building, not the CEO or administrator, and has no authority to enter into such agreement as per the conversation I just had with the actual administrator of Future Care, a conversation that was separately had minutes later by Rich Marsiglia, the executive director of Harbell, the community umbrella group that oversees North Baltimore, and former chair of the Hamilton Business Association. I don't believe that this is an honorable agreement. I'm sure that my constituents have a lot of other concerns to raise, but I do not believe in any good faith that the parking requirements have been met, and I would ask that this board reject this application out of hand.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Well, I'm trying not to, my name is Robert Gillespie.
And I would say, you know, we heard the councilman, but remember, this is a land use body. I mean, we're not the police department.
Right.
So a lot of what I'm hearing is more police-type activity. We're
Sure.
here to talk about the zoning code.
Yeah, so not only do I live in Laurelville, I have my businesses on Harford Road directly across the street in Moravia Walterson from Mr. Cobb's property. So for better or worse, I get to observe everything that goes on there, and I'm a loud advocate against Mr. Cobb getting any further zoning. In terms of my business there, I am concerned with the parking chiefly once Future Care bought a old gas station and converted it into parking because they had such limited parking. They were parking all through the neighborhood, on my street, on all the streets around Future Care, which is right next to Mr. Cobb's property. So if they're going to give him 35 spots, where are those cars going to be displaced to? They're not going to be displaced. Those spots aren't being given up, right? So as more of my business is on Harford Road, it's a major redevelopment is going on there, a revitalization, if you will. So there's a lot of storefronts that are coming that aren't there yet. But once those storefronts open, that parking is at a premium for a business like mine. So I'm concerned about that chiefly. All the police issues, they're noted in my letter I wrote. You can follow up with the police department and see all the 911 calls that the community are making. It's well noted the issues there, but I'm chiefly concerned about his property conflicting with the redevelopment, conflicting with the quality of life of just my business and my home.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cobb, before we continue, on this photo, can you tell me where the Future Care parking is that you would like to utilize?
Across this alley right here. Street, or actually they have
So it's
some-
really not on this photo? It's up at this top here?
Yes, it's right in that area, and they have some on the side over here too, so they have parked on the side.
Okay,
It's about 100 feet from our property.
okay,
I think the parking has to be within 300 feet.
right. All right, next.
Hello, my name is Richard Marsigli. I'm the Executive Director of Harbell Community Organization. Our letter was read into the minutes or hearing today. Thank you for hearing us. Mr. Cobb's a very nice gentleman. I've met with him. Seems like a nice guy trying to do good things in the community. But one thing you're here, you talked about is parking, and parking is the issue. So when this letter was presented to us out in the lobby, some discussion came. Tim Johnson actually sits on Harbell's Board of Directors. So Councilman Curran contacted Dorsey. Sorry. Councilman Dorsey. Other hearings was always Curran, but I'm sorry. Councilman Dorsey contacted Tim Johnson, and then I contacted pretty much simultaneously, so I was holding to finish with the councilman. Tim said, as Ms. O'Neill is a activities director there, as Councilman said, and she has no authority to give permission for that parking space. And he needs the spaces for his parking, for his staff and customers and visitors. She had no authority to do this, and he would not give that authority, is his exact words, what he gave to me. So that's the concern here is parking. There's a lot of development going on. As Mr. Gillespie said, parking is going to become a premium. It's going to become an issue, and we just need to make sure parking is protected and not becomes an issue in the future when all this development continues to happen.
All right,
Thank you.
Next.
Good afternoon. I'm John Harris. I'm with Moravia Walter Improvement Association. Thank you all for hearing us today. I didn't hear my name for the Moravia Walter Group. Is that something I can enter? It's pretty much the same thing that the other group said. Can I enter that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We can make this part of the record.
Thank you. I'm just in agreement with the councilman and the other community business owners. We had an at-length moderation meeting, and I don't know whatever happened to that. I just came from a meeting prior to here with Hamilton Laurelville Main Street business director, and no significance or focus changes that we discussed have been made, other than about 1/3 of what we requested regarding meetings and whatnot. So the parking is an issue, and that's something to be concerned about because we have several developments that are going in. We have several businesses that are moving into our area and across the street, and the parking is already a little tight during certain times of the day and throughout the weekend as people move in and out and around the area. So having the street parking is going to be sensitive. So adding into that no parking, that would make things bad for our business owners and our neighborhood residents. Off-street parking, I agree. It's the form there, or the essay, or whatever that could be characterized as. Looking online, even, you can see that that person has no authority on anything for the parking requested. I don't really have anything more to add outside the parking that Mr. Marsiglia brought up very well, and so did the councilman. Ms. O'Neill has no authority, therefore Pastor Cobb really hasn't met the needs of our neighborhood to have off-street parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Cecilia Landers, and I am.
Could you talk into the mic, please?
And I'm an officer with the Laurelville Improvement Association, and I submitted the letter in behalf of our association. I was told not to repeat, so everything that people have said, we are reinforcing. And the letter that was submitted, I was looking at it and we were discussing it, and I question the authentication, the authority that letter is supposed to present, so.
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Jody Landers, Cecilia's husband, and a resident of Laurelville. But I just want to point out, beyond the parking issue, what we're dealing with here is a credibility issue. And you just heard testimony that this agreement isn't worth the paper it's written on. That's the problem. We have a property owner here who there's a requirement under the law to meet certain conditions, and they are bending over backwards to circumvent the law and a legitimate way of trying to deal with this in order to try to get permission to do it. We don't want that kind of use in our neighborhood. We want business owners and churches who are going to deal openly and honestly with our community. That's the kind of relationship where when problems arise, you can work things out. You can't work things out with somebody who you cannot trust. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Cobb? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Cleary, and I've lived in the Laurelville Improvement area for more than 35 years. I'm a former past president of the Laurelville Improvement Association. I just want to report everything that the Laurelville Improvement Association has presented, that Harbell, Councilman Dorsey, and I also want to respectfully say to the board, we are limited in the resources, the avenues of rectification we have when we have a problem property. So I understand the issue is parking, but I also plead to the board, consider that we have a problem property. We've been working for decades to build the neighborhood, and the issues coming from this property are now tearing down 3 decades of work that we've been working on. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do want to, one last.
Sure.
I happen to speak to another longtime Laurelville resident, Georgia Corso, earlier. She lives in another part of the neighborhood but owns properties throughout the neighborhood. Her son lives almost directly behind the Future Care building, and I receive complaints on a regular basis from her about the parking congestion there, that already the Future Care lots are overflowing. You heard they just expanded their parking capacity to create this parking lot that is being purported to have been leased out. They just created this last year. That there is an extreme shortage of parking there already. It is utterly unbelievable that they would lease out their parking. And again, as was said, it's not worth the paper that it's written on. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
City Fathers. That's why you're here at this time, I guess. We've talked a lot about credibility. There's been very little credibility that I've heard in these testimonies today. Almost everything they've said is not credible. Number one, Mr. Dorsey said, but both of those letters was changed. There was only one letter. Paul Cho's letter was not changed. That's incredible.
Well, let's do one person at a time.
Number two, I explained why I had changed that letter, because Mr. Rob Roy owned American Beauty across the street. I worked well with him. I worked well with the Powell Fence Company next door. I worked well with all the community. Even some of the people that came to the community meeting told me they stood up for our church because the stuff they said was not, a lot of stuff they said were not true. I understand what they want. They want all that area because the new stuff's coming in. I'd like to work with them on that, and even if I have to leave the neighborhood, I would work with that. I've offered them that if they want the property to pay what I pay for it, and I'll be glad to go somewhere else because I don't want to be where I'm not wanted. But we're there trying to do a service. We're trying to help people. We every Sunday we go down to Cold Blue and Sister's Place and bring people up, feed them breakfast, and they stay for church, and then we take them back after church. We don't leave them in the community, even though they're saying these doors are being left open and it's an open air drug deal. I work with the police. One of the men that's come out of our church is 2 years ago he won Rookie of the Year in the Baltimore City Police Department. And one of the problems that we're having in our community, and I'm sure we're all having, and I think we're all sharing this, is that we've had people break in our property. They're breaking in a lot of the properties. Miss Regina, who's in one of the associations there, she said her house has been broken 5 times. Her house is at least 3 blocks from our building. They've said some of the people that they've seen doing this stuff on Harford Road coming from other areas. Yes, they're coming from other areas. They're flowing all up and down Harford Road. It's not just our property that's having a problem. It's all up and down Harford Road they're having the problems. I'm not sure it's because of new construction. We've been there 10 years. We've never had the problems we've had in this last year. And like I said, I'm willing to work to solve the problems. Now, as far as the parking is concerned, no one has disputed that Ms. O'Neill did not work for and is not on the part of the employment at Future Care. They're acting like I've done something else fraudulent. To me, what you say is what you are. If you call somebody else fraudulent, then they must be having problems. And I think the reason for that is because, again, a lot of the new businesses coming in there, and they want to force anybody out they can so they can take over the whole area. And I'd like to work with them, but if not, again, I repeat, I've told them in an organization, in community organization meetings and stuff, that I'm willing to, if they want to buy my property, if they want to be over our property, they seemingly want to tell me how to run our property, which I don't mind if I'm going to try to and we've been working very hard. We've had 4 inspections. The first inspector that came in said he inspected one apartment. He said, "There's no problems here. What's the deal? These people are calling people and actually harassing us. They've called the policemen have showed up at our building and having no activities, no reason to be there. And somebody called them, anonymous called them and sent them to our building. I've been there almost every day since we had this, trying to make sure everything is going good and going the way it should go. I'm not saying our people are perfect. We're not helping perfect people. I think we can all agree there's a lot of imperfect people in Baltimore City that need help trying to do better. And that's what we're there for. If I got to do someone else to do that, that's fine. I've been in Baltimore 37 years. My mother was born and raised in this community here, and she come up and stay with me 3 years. She's 85 years old. She used to get out at night at 9 o'clock at night at church, and she wasn't afraid of the community. We had no fear. She had no fear. We have no fear. I've been in the middle of the night. I've been walking up Harford Road. I never been afraid of anybody. Nobody's ever tried to do anything to me. I hear things that's happening, and here's one of the indicators that some of this stuff is fraud. I'm not saying all of it is, and I understand they're interested in their community. I'm interested in the community. But one of the things that was told Mr. Paul Cho, who used to allow us to use his parking. up on the corner there, at Paul's Cleaners. There was 11 spots there. We used to use that. I went up there to ask him, could I continue using it, so we get the updated letter and everything. He told me, he said, no. He says, because you were responsible. Your church was responsible. Your building was responsible for the guy that got killed in the community. I said, what? I said, well, who in the world would tell something like that? I asked these people about, and nobody defended themselves that they didn't say it. They didn't tell them. So the only thing I know is they must have told them.
We're getting pretty far off of what this board does here.
I understand, but as far as they're saying that this parking letter is fraudulent, I'm trying to they've said I'm a liar. They're calling me a liar here, and I think they need to look in the mirror themselves.
Did you ask the executive director of Future Care to sign that letter? Parking.
I went in. We like I said, we do community work in Future Care, helping there, and I asked the people there who would I talk to. I talked to Miss O'Neill. She says she was the person. She says the administrator has been wanting to work with churches in the community. She says we're glad to work with you on this. Now, as far as using the parking, like I said, like I told you before, we don't really need the parking. We park on the street. We used to use Mr. Rob Roy's parking across the street, American Beauty, and we used Mr. Paul Cho's parking before.
Well, you do need parking
but we never park there except for zoning. We park on the street all the time, but we do need it for zoning. So as far as the time period that we need it is not when they really need it. They don't need it on Sunday morning as much. They don't need it on Thursday evening. That's really the only time we need, even for zoning purposes. So that's when we have our services. So we're I asked like I was supposed to. I went to plan like I was supposed to, and drew up the agreement like I was supposed to. And I'm willing to talk to the administrator, whoever I need to talk to above that. I mean, I asked who to do it, and she said she could do it, and that's what was done. If you'd like to call her, I mean, nobody here is denying that she didn't give us the approval of the agreement. So, so you don't want any more information about the stuff they've said about me, about our organization?
If whatever you want to bring up that's relevant to your appeal, we'd be happy to listen to you.
Okay. Number one, as far as the activities that are on the property, that may happen on the property, is the police are having a hard time doing anything with people like that, and we've asked the police to help us with any activities that may be illegal. And let's see, we've been involved in painting and fixing up the property. We're trying to even do it even better. We have some of the things I have a list of things that we did at the community. I don't know why they don't have theirs, but and I'm trying to tell you some of the things that we discussed. I went to them and discussed with them some of their issues, and I've been working very hard trying to. Of course, it's hard to do all the things they wanted done like in 30, 45 days. But we have a Defender HD security system that we're putting into the church there. We already have the plans drawn up right here. If you'd like to see those for the sealant needs to be done, the fire sealant needs to be put in to accommodate the zoning of the property. We've gone to at least 6 community meetings, had 4 inspections. I guess I'll close with this. I could give you some issues of the problems I'm sure you know the issues with the rent court. It's just almost impossible to get someone out of a property once you're renting to them. And I've had some that's given me that's people that's moved in with people on the property, and I'm trying to get them out, so I'm having issues with that. But I'd like to read the February 7, 2013. This is out of the New York Times. Called "Tax Breaks Good for Religion, Good for America."
Is relevant to your appeal?
If you think it's not, then I'll finish.
I'm not making that decision, sir. I'll let you make that decision. I'm just asking the question.
It just talks about, and I think these folks need to understand what religion can do is good. They both complain that we're not doing anything, but then we're so active. I don't know. I don't know if they want us not to do anything or to be active. Which one. So with that, unless I need to come back later.
Great. Any questions from the board?
Please, any questions? I'll be glad to.
Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Next case is 2017-212, 1710 Clarkson Street.
Good afternoon. My name is Alan Kinney.
All right, bear with us 1 second here while we get our organization going on here.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give this hearing will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Mr. Kinney, I'm going to ask first, do we have any staff reports?
Yes, we have a letter. This letter is submitted in opposition to the addition at 1710 Clarkson Street. The addition has already been built and probably not to code since there are no inspections without permits pulled. As a close neighbor, I saw this house being built and noticed that they used regular 2x4 wood lintels, where steel and masonry lintels are required. They did this on both the front and back of the house. The reason steel or masonry lintels are required is because even if of a fire, the wooden lintels would burn quickly and the masonry above would not have been supported. Additionally, take a look at the picture and check out the modifications they did to the back steps to try to park a car on the patio. They built too big of an addition and didn't leave room for the off-street parking as it was sold as having. These steps are a hazard and a result of this poorly planned illegal rehab. Also, take a look at the picture of the zoning sign. It was not secured to the house and has been lying face down so no one can see it. The addition needs to be removed since no permits were pulled and there are already code violations with the back steps and lintels. These are the photographs. And then this.
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Got them today.
All right, Mr. Kinney, tell us about this project, please.
Seems like you guys know more than I do.
Well, this is just
I
a
was
letter we
hired
received.
by the homeowner a year, maybe 2 years ago, to create this project. At the time, there was an existing second floor addition, and our first permit pulled out a deck permit for the second floor, as well as a rooftop deck. It was approved. My client then informed me that he wanted to build an addition underneath that new second floor deck, which is what I created the plans for. We filed for the permit. They were instructed us we needed to see the board. I told my client, and I never heard from him again for like 9 months, till he said, go ahead and file this. I was under no impression that he had built it. But I can say that if the board approves it, he has to make it to code. My building plans he would have to follow. If he's built it 2 inches too large, he's going to have to take off 2 inches. I understand the concern of the neighbors with the lintels. That shouldn't be that way. Steel lintels is what we recommend and what we use. I also know that this neighbor was very friendly to my associate when she put the sign up, because it was a very hard time to attach it. And the neighbor did say that she would look out, and if it tipped over, she would stand it up for us. The addition we're asking for is to go underneath the existing deck that's been approved. And I do have a permit number for that one. There are stairs that are designed to go off the addition. Again, those are the stairs I designed. I couldn't tell you what's there now. I haven't been there. I don't know if they've turned them, changed them, or made them larger. I'm just asking for the approval for what I filed.
Was sitting on my desk this morning when I came in.
So how big, I'm just trying to get to understand this. So how big is the addition under the deck that?
The addition will be 12 feet, which is full width of the property, by 8 feet off that main house. There's currently a 4-foot 3-inch second floor addition and a 3-foot 9-inch deck that gives the stair access to the rooftop deck. The best way to look at it is the plat on the front. You have it. The 8.5 by 11 plat attached to the front.
Yes.
That's the best way to look at it. You could see the existing addition, and then the approved deck with stairs going to the rooftop deck, which was approved. And it's underneath that and the stairs that are sticking out that we're looking to have approval for.
Okay.
When's the last time you were actually at this subject property?
The date's on the plans, ma'am.
Okay, so,
It's been a while since I've been there.
okay, so you have no information about the
No.
posting of the sign?
No, I did. I sent my associate. She works for my company. And she went up there, we made the sign, and she mounted it. It was real hard to get it to stay, and we were concerned that it would tip over. And the neighbor was out there offering little tools and said she would watch just to help us stand it up. That's all. My associate is Cindy Jordan. She's a retired executive from Booz Hamilton. We weren't looking to try to play a game or get over.
Has she been back to the property since it was
Yes,
fixed?
she was. She was back after it was installed because they said, let me look up the, I'm not sure where it is, but it's this 14th floor. When she dropped off the sign, as you can see in the photo, it was missing the R8 zone, so she had to go back a few days later to write in the R8 zone on it, and it was still standing at that time.
So you haven't been, I'm looking at the date of these drawings, it's 4/26/16. You haven't been there in over a year?
That's right. We started the project. If you were to check the building files, you'll see that, I got it open on my phone. We actually filed for it, and it was denied. But prior to that, I don't have it available right now. We were given the first permit for the second-story deck and rooftop deck. And when we went back, these are the drawings to build underneath, and this is the one that they raised the flag on. And my client had me hold off X amount of months until he said, I need to get it done. So we came up and filed. There was no need for us to go back. We usually don't visit a site after the plans are created and the permit's issued, unless we're lucky and they say, give us more work.
Any questions from the board?
The pictures that were submitted, has this gentleman seen the pictures?
Yeah, may I, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Pictures of looks like a parking pad and some steps and.
I don't know what's there, but I can tell you that if this is approved, he would be forced to put what's here. I think those look like temporary stairs to me. But they're not even in the right place on my drawing. My drawing shows the door in the middle. You say, so he's gonna have to do something. But those look temporary.
David, I'm confused because I thought we were talking about a height variance.
Not on this case.
Okay.
The only reason this case wasn't on the consent docket is because of this email that I got, or this on an unsigned note with pictures that I got this morning on my desk.
Okay.
I believe that this probably complies with transform, wouldn't even need a variance. They're
For some reason
covering.
I'd written 40 feet as
They're-
a note.
I'm sorry?
For some reason, I had written 40 feet next to this one. I must have just written it in the wrong place.
I think that's, I'm sorry. That's,
I'm good.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Thank you very much.
May I ask what the next step is?
The next step is at the end of our proceeding today, we will consider this and vote on it. If you don't want to stick around, you can call the zoning office tomorrow morning and get our decision.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
they're going to 69% lot coverage.
Yeah.
The new code allows 80%.
Next case, 2017-219, 201 North Washington Street. Carlton Gilbert.
He's been sworn.
Yes. Gilbert, as our reporter said, you've been sworn, so you're still under oath.
Yes.
Any staff reports?
Yes. We have a letter from CARE, a community association. She writes, "My name is Cynthia Gross. I am the president of CARE Community Association. I was recently informed of the BMZA hearing scheduling for the property listed above. The hearing is related to a cell phone towers being located on top of the building. CARE is a very residential community, and early this year, a communications tower box was installed in the community along Orleans Street. It seems that our community, is being filled with requests for cell towers. I am curious if you or your office can tell me what other communities in Baltimore City are seeing these types of requests. There has been a concern raised about the appearance of the towers and health issues. I would really like the petitioner to speak to the community about this request before your hearing, but that is next week. Is there any way CARE could request an extension or a postponement of this hearing until we can meet with the petitioner?" And then there's planning.
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted the site of this proposed installation is a 12-story multiple-family detached residential building known as Apostolic Towers. The department considers this a suitable location for the proposed installation and recommends approval subject to these conditions. The antennas and related equipment must be painted to match the building to ensure they are visually unobtrusive. Panel antennas and related equipment will remain mounted as illustrated in the plans and elevations submitted to and approved by the Planning Department, and the applicant will adequately mitigate any adverse effect specified in the report of the Historical and Architectural Preservation Division of the Department of Planning in accordance with that report's recommendations. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Carlton, are those conditions, Mr. Gilbert, are those conditions
Yes,
acceptable
those
to you?
conditions are acceptable.
Good. Tell us, in your words, about the project. What do you intend to do?
Well, it's a telecommunications facility on the roof of a 12-story building. Will not be visible to the community, as the planning report states that there is no neighborhood impact with this facility. I'll just say the letter does somewhat misrepresent what we're doing. It keeps referring to towers. This is not a tower. This is a rooftop co-location facility. The policy in the planning department continues to suggest and recommend carriers such as T-Mobile to look for areas where you can co-locate rather than construct towers. So I just feel like that letter is not representing what we're doing. Understand that we do have a responsibility to do what we do and reach out. In this case, the letter was just submitted last week. I'm somewhat surprised that as a carrier, we weren't notified that there was a letter of opposition that came in after the staff report, which does recommend approval.
Could you very briefly just address the concerns raised in the letter about health?
Well, the technology for these types of facilities have improved to such degree that there are appliances in your home that carry more emission radiation and those types of things, if we're going to relate those to health, than the existing wattage or radiation that are carried out by antennas.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there a way to just state that in order to avoid having it disapproved, that we would accept a postponement? I would just need to know. Okay.
Yeah, we're off the record at this point.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
So that property that was 40 feet got postponed. That was Toon Street.
Oh, okay.
All right. So lots of consents.
Circled Harford Road, Clarkson
Right.
Street.
Yeah, me
Harford
too.
Road.
It's by Clarkson Street, just because.
A little bit of history on Harford Road. The church came to the board in 2002, a previous church, and the board at that time said they had that letter from 4718 that said they could have 11 parking spaces. And they also wanted Pep Boys across the street, and they had 35 over there. And the board said at that time, with planning and recommendations from the community, that across the street at Pep Boys was too dangerous to use as required parking, because it was like two major streets that people would have to cross. But and planning said, okay, well, 11 would be okay as long as they get a long-term lease. So they never got that, and they never got a permit. And then in 2008, the current church came to the board, and the board basically said, okay, if you can get some long-term parking for 11 spaces, we would approve it on that condition. And they never got the permit, never got the parking. So that's why they're here now, because something triggered a complaint, and even though the church has been there, they've never been authorized with a permit, and they've never provided the parking. The 5 spaces for the dwellings are grandfathered in. Mm-hmm. They don't need parking for them. So just a little background I wanted the board to be aware of.
I'm not sure this agreement, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if this is a valid lease or not in terms of just meeting legal requirements. I could probably make the argument that it is.
Well, if it is, it would need to be recorded in order to be counted as required parking. The code says it has to be at least 20 years, and it has to be recorded in the land records. Obviously, it's not, but maybe they could do that.
Yeah, I mean, but again, this is so vague. I mean, I don't know if what renewable for 3 additional terms, who renews it, you know, how many years is it renewable for?
Is it enforceable against future care? Probably not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Imagine that person's not a duly authorized officer.
I'm a hard no on this one.
Yeah, I think I'm a no too, because I don't think this document gets us parking.
Well, and with I didn't appreciate the recording requirement. I think that is useful information to know. I didn't know about it. I thought it just had to be an agreement.
Isn't that
written
sort of
agreement,
honored
but-
though in the breach?
Yeah, it's enforcement of it is non-existent,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think, Marty, I don't think we've ever really enforced the recording part when we've had leases.
Really?
We have.
Have we?
Well, we've had cases where they comply and the enforcement was never needed. But I couldn't tell you that, I mean, we've never done any follow-up on them it's up to the zoning administrator, basically. So, it's a tough issue. The new code isn't gonna make it any easier because they require the fire department to go in and make an assessment and tell us how many spaces it would accommodate, which I can tell you it's gonna be more than 11 or 13, because they look at the entire capacity, not just the seating capacity. So it's not gonna get any easier in the future. But
Well, except they say they've got an agreement for 35 spaces, which presumably would meet the fire rating.
Right.
if they could accommodate with a long-term lease that satisfies the zoning administrator,
The lot for the future care lot, which lot was that?
who knows?
It's
Yeah, I
beyond
asked
any
him-
of the photographs that we have.
Future care has a lot right off Market. The lot
They say
itself
fo-
doesn't have 35 spaces. It's a
They say 4,700.
Parking is here.
prior to the church, it was some kind of the board approved a school, a training, some kind of training program. And their parking was sketchy too, but so.
Well, I think I'm a no, just because I don't think this document gets us to the parking that we need.
I'm definitely a no.
I'm torn. I mean, I don't think that this is an enforceable agreement against future care. But do we want to go as far as to say no? Or do we say approval contingent upon satisfactory,
Yeah, if that was signed by an executive director of Future Care, would we feel differently, I think is what you're
I
talking
would,
about.
right.
Well, if it had a little more meat to it too. I mean,
Like a site plan.
well, I'm talking just from the legal stand, renewable for 3 additional terms. Or were they 2-day terms? Or they, what are the terms? I don't know what the terms are.
Doesn't it say it's a 5-year agreement, renewable for 3 additional?
I think that's what it
Terms.
implies.
Well, that's what it implies.
Right.
But I'm inclined to accept the councilman's testimony that he spoke with the CEO and said that he wasn't gonna sign that document.
Well, I think we're at the same place.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
I think they can
give them extra
probably
time is-
satisfy the requirement. I just don't think that they have satisfied it already.
And I do think that the board has approved these long-term agreements subject to renewable
Yeah, we have.
5-year terms in the past.
Right. And we have approved uses conditioned upon the applicant coming back with a satisfactory written
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah,
we could say,
It's really the only thing it's the only roadblock
Yeah.
that prevents them from,
But wasn't that the purpose of the postponement, and they should have had that at this case to present?
I think they should have done a little better.
I'm just not inclined to give them, the applicant any more leeway at this point.
12 months to get that in order, and then we'll apply to the same thing.
Too much testimony from the community on this one.
And just to give you some background, they asked for postponements
The church?
previously to get everything in order, and we granted the postponement, and they still didn't come in with,
Right.
right,
Well, and just from a business standpoint, given the shortage, the testimony we heard about the shortage of parking in that neighborhood, I mean, is a long-term care facility like Future Care really willing to give up 35 spaces for 10 years, 20 years, for $1 a year?
yeah, not likely.
Right.
If, also, if it was denied, this is still under the previous code. They can come back under the new code and try again. But, they probably should get some legal advice on how to maneuver all this, especially with the opposition and.
I agree.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
What else we have to talk about? Anything?
I just was confused by Clarkson Street. It was a little bizarre to me. The thing is already, the project's already been built.
What he's saying is, he didn't build it.
He didn't build it. He prepared the plans.
Yeah.
The owner or someone else built it, and the neighbors complaining it wasn't built to code.
Right, and now it's too big, I guess. No, the plans, now you're getting me confused. So the plans show that they need a variance, I guess.
Yes, they're
For what?
increasing the lot coverage to beyond 60%, which the current code allows.
So what the guy, it really doesn't make any difference what the guy built, because
They're gonna need to get a
they're
permit.
gonna get a permit, right,
And he's gonna have to bring it up to code if it wasn't
Right.
built properly.
right. And if we allow it, he can back into the backyard. Okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm sorry, say that again, I missed that.
So he's gotta go get a permit, so if this is shoddy construction or not to code construction, it's gonna have to be fixed
He's
anyway,
gonna have to get a permit to do what?
to build what he wants to build.
I thought he already built it, that's the part I'm
But he
confused
didn't build it with a proper
Didn't get-
permit.
Didn't get a permit.
So he now has to comply to the code.
But he didn't build the first story addition yet. It's the second story addition and rooftop deck that's already built.
No, I think he built the first floor too.
The only thing he's asking for is the first story
Yeah.
addition.
Right.
There wasn't a second floor addition built. I think it's just a deck. I don't know. You're right, I'm confused.
Yeah, it sounded to me
yeah.
like they had already done that work under a different
That's what it sounded
Oh,
like.
yeah, yeah.
acceptance.
That
Yeah, he
some
may have-
of it was already done
Under
by
permit,
somebody
yeah.
else.
Right.
Yeah, some of it was already done properly, and now they're coming back, and the part that wasn't done. So this guy leaves the job a year ago.
Because it says to access to the new second floor
Yeah.
rooftop deck, not to build a
Yeah.
new rooftop deck. I didn't see any reason why not to.
Yeah, by giving him, by going down the road we're going, it's gonna have to get a permit, so if it's bad construction, they gotta fix it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I do want to call the board's attention to one with the case. Which one was it? What used to be Fifth Street Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you all picked
Yeah,
up on this, but
outdoor
they do
table.
want, well, not the outdoor tables, but the live entertainment, the testimony was that they would have that in the outdoor courtyard.
Right.
That's what I heard.
But, so I just want to make sure that the board was aware of that. That would be denied that for Remington.
She also testified it would be acoustic.
Yeah.
But she said,
I just want to make sure that.
she said contained. Is that, so that courtyard is not contained within?
It's pretty much walled in on three sides.
Yeah, there's a front opening that's open to the front side, or to the, to Fleet Street. And so it's open air, it's in an open air courtyard, then flows into the street.
Well, I heard that too.
So just FYI.
Always gotta make it more difficult, don't you?
Well, we're kind of late to the
Future
Right.
party on that one.
consideration for other cases coming.
Yeah. And the conditions weren't, planning's conditions weren't limiting it to acoustical instruments only.
Planning conditions said no outdoor music, jukebox or other form of
Oh.
entertainment outdoors. So if the board wishes to grant a limited outdoor entertainment, then certainly we would want to have it specified the way that she testified, which was non-amplified acoustic only.
Right.
Well, maybe that's our differentiating
Thought she
factor
asked for a
then.
DJ.
She said a DJ. They're gonna have a,
Supposed to be the bass and the saxophone.
Okay.
So if we go, do we go with, as part of the condition,
Well, I think
non-amplified?
we already stuck there. It was on the consent document,
I think we just refer
Oh,
to
you're
the
right.
existing conditions that are already on it.
right?
They're in the file. They're in the file.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, even though those conditions were not specified by planning, that's all she said she wanted.
That's
so
all she,
we
yeah, I'm
could
gonna go by her testimony
conceivably
here.
Limit it to that.
Yeah.
All right.
The form that the questionnaire that they filled out, I don't think it said anything about outdoor entertainment. It said 2 musicians. Says a limit, and then she's gonna have a piano, which I guess they're not gonna haul around. Piano player and 2 musicians and a DJ is the maximum number.
Two Americans going around singing "That's Amore."
Do we need to
it
see
would
the
rise to-
application so that we know how to package the consent?
What the question?
Yeah, no, right.
Pen and you have the quill.
It is 2:10.
The menu's too weird for me. Huh?
That new barbecue place on Greenmount that we approved is getting good reviews. Right right in there.
This John.
Before it turns into your road.
That's all.
Yeah.
They're trying to build off of, what's it?
Less than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I don't remember that place being that big.
Gotta get the BGF out of there first. You can pump all the money you want. All right, are we ready to?
I don't think we're still looking.
Oh.
I didn't mean to cause a ruckus.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You succeeded.
Yeah, when you start to, with, I want to call the board's attention to. Call the board's attention to the fact that I'm starving right now.
Jay, is this the, so this
Fresh is calling my
what they're talking
name.
about?
The one on Baltimore closes at 3 o'clock. Yeah, but the one on West Street's open till 9.
Didn't she give us photographs? Did she submit additional photographs?
Can you get the file?
Uh-huh.
But I'm looking, if this is where it is, I mean, I'm gonna say, depending on what these doors are, this is, could be considered enclosed, isn't it?
Right. It's just an open space. I think there might be a gate.
It's an open air courtyard.
It's an iron,
Oh,
flat
no,
iron,
okay, but
open gate.
Not like doors where you shut it.
No.
What's this close to?
This is what she gave us.
What else is there? You talking Harbor East?
Yeah. Across the street from Whole Foods.
Oh, yeah, I know, okay. I didn't exactly where you're talking.
This is what she gave us.
Okay.
You mean Amazon?
So this is what she, so you've got the.
Now I'm gonna have my
Looks like
groceries
Van
dropped
Kendall
off
photos
with
are off, but this is a gate.
Yeah, okay.
These are like big
Yeah, it
planters.
says metal gate.
And then,
Be kinda cool though, like, can you accidentally drop that
Oh, I know
one
what it
on
says.
my neighbor's car?
yeah.
Eggs will be wrapped in bubble wrap.
I really don't think it's gonna be a problem, but
No, I think we go with what she said. It's non-amplified music.
yeah, it'll be all right.
You guys good with that?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, let's run down the list.
Eric's the one we gotta satisfy.
Gotta write all this stuff.
Right.
Until 4 a.m.
All right.
With a buffet.
2017-17, 3801 Hillsdale Road. I'm a yes.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yes.
2017,
Conditions.
yes. 2017-85, 4708 Hartford. I'm a no.
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 Agreed.
2017-128 consent, 2017-192 is postponed, 2017-200 consent, 2017-203 is consent, 2017-204 is consent, 2017-205 is consent, 2017-207 consent, 2017-209 is postponed, 2017-210 was consent with planning condition, 2017-211 was postponed, 2017-212, I'm a yes.
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 Agree.
2017-214 was consent, 2017-215 is a no-show, Mr. Nicodemus. 2017-216 was consent. 2017-217 consent with planning conditions and community conditions. 2017-218 is postponed. 2017-219, I am a yes.
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 Agree.
2017-220 consent with planning conditions. 2017-221 consent. 2017-223 consent with planning conditions. 2017-224 consent with planning conditions. 2017-225 postponed. 2017-226 was consent.
And Frank says a new record. Is that a new record?